Years of abuse he suffered at a Jesuit-run school during the 1970s ruined his health and his marriage. Now a former lawyer has won the right to sue the school for a five-figure sum as a High Court judge rules his claim could proceed outside the legal time limit. Patrick Raggett says he was abused by a priest working at Preston Catholic College, which closed in 1978. The priest involved died 9 years ago. Today, the Jesuit order said it abhorred the abusive behaviour and any damage it might have done to Mr. Raggett. Nick Martin has this report.
Patrick Raggett was a schoolboy when he was abused by his teacher in Preston. Today, he left the High Court after winning the right to fight for damages, despite the passage of time.
I'm very pleased at the outcome of the trial. I would like to thank my family, my legal team, and everyone else who supported me throughout.
In the early 1970s, Mr. Raggett attended the Preston Catholic College. It was run by the Jesuit Church. Father Michael Spencer was his teacher, and it's now accepted that Father Spencer sexually abused Mr. Raggett during his time at the school. Patrick Raggett claimed that he suffered insidious child abuse at the hands of Father Michael Spencer. He said during his schoolboy days that he was filmed taking exercises and touched inappropriately by the French teacher. But like the building itself, Father Michael Spencer is long gone. But at the heart of Patrick Raggett's case was that what happened here affected the rest of his life. Mr. Raggett said his career as a city lawyer, his marriage and his drink problem were all traced back to his experiences as a child in Preston, but that they only came to the forefront when he went to see a therapist 4 years ago.
I want to urge others who are being or who were similarly mistreated to come forward. The Jesuit order, the Catholic Church generally, is still not accepting legal and moral responsibility for the dark virus of abuse in the way that it should.
First 11 cricket 76, yes. Yeah.
And it is a case which has stirred up old memories. Chris Nolan also attended the Preston Catholic College. He's decided to speak publicly for the first time about what he witnessed at the school and his memories of Father Spencer.
I can see Paddy now at Riverside, stark naked, with Father Spencer there. I remember Paddy getting changed in his office lots of times and watching him rub Paddy down, drying him down with a towel, and I saw him with a tape measure once in his office. And I just said to Paddy, what's he doing? He said, oh, he's measuring my development.
The school is no longer here, but a blue plaque commemorates. And today the Society of Jesus acknowledged with deep sorrow that abuse did occur here. In a statement it added, the Society of Jesus abhors the abusive behaviour which the judge finds that Father Michael Spencer committed against Mr. Raggett in the 1970s. The Society further regrets any damage which this behaviour may have done to Mr. Raggett. The Society of Jesus, as the college's former owners, accepts that it is responsible for any financial settlement which may be awarded in this case. It's not that long ago that the Catholic Church repented its sins for past child abuse. Last year, the Pope, on a visit to America, said sorry to all those who'd fallen victim to child sex abuse. In some cases, churches even had to be sold to pay compensation. Now Mr. Raggett's case will be heard and he could win £5 million in damages. And in breaking new legal ground, many more could follow him.
Nick Martin reporting. Well, now this afternoon, fresh from the High Court, Patrick Raggett came into the studio. I asked him what persuades him that the abuse so long ago has affected his adult life.
Well, I had what's called a moment of awareness back in April 2005. It's like an enormous flash flood coming over me during a Sunday family lunch, actually. And it's very hard to put it into objective, strong words, but it's something that one knows on a very profound, deep level. And it's the way I would put it is that the whole of my life, all the events were still there as events, but the light shining on them was from a different angle and much more illuminated.
Was that because of the people who were at the lunch, or what provoked it?
I was actually having an argument with a priest who's a friend of mine about did God exist, etc., and something else started to operate on my consciousness, and it was like a kind of flash flood coming over me, really.
Because one of the things which I think people find perplexing is that when you got married,
Yes.
You went off in search of the very man who had abused you, Father Spencer.
Yes, I think because on a conscious level, because of the grooming, this man was a family friend. He would often come to our house for Sunday lunch for years and years. He kept in touch with my parents. He would visit my parents' home years after I'd left. He would write me cards at Christmas time and birthdays and things. And I think it's what I now know as a Stockholm syndrome, where the hostages tend to side with the hostage takers in certain bizarre situations. And it's extraordinary to me now that I went to those lengths and that he officiated a day like one's wedding. And I think that's the contrast I now see with the awareness. It would be utterly out of the question now.
What do you want to achieve now?
I want to remove the stigma that still exists from the victims. One of the problems is that a victim, when the awareness crashes in, feels terrible shame and humiliation and a lot of complicity as well, that you're somehow complicit in this terrifying problem that goes on for years.
No amount of money is going to rectify this.
No.
So what finding would you want? That the Jesuit order were responsible?
Well, I've already had that finding, and that gives me an enormous degree of satisfaction, because linked to that is the emotional angst there has been over the last 4 years of litigation. And there was a large gap between what the Jesuits preach and the rather implacable way they defend these cases tooth and nail.
How do you think it did damage you?
Well, it damaged me on many emotional ways. It gave me a terrible fear of intimacy. It made me very, very anxious, overly anxious around any authority figure. I mean, there are people probably listening who will know that in my career I've had personality clashes with people in authority, etc. So it's hypervigilance. You're too anxious around what should be an ordinary situation.
Where do you think society is in understanding child abuse?
I think that we are still in, I'm afraid, the foothills, because each case is still seen as some one-off aberration. And I actually think we need to be approaching it from the other perspective. For example, anyone who's going to become a priest should be licensed after being vetted by an behavioural psychologist. Because once they're ordained,